institutions argue about the future of our country. The Russian Economics Academy, which was formerly called the Plekhanov Institute, is celebrating today its 85th anniversary. The Academy had many names. In 1907, it was the Commercial Institute, which was the first Russian educational institution which gave higher economic and technical education. The name has changed 3 times: the Commercial Institute, the Plekhanov Institute, and now the Russian Economic Academy. At one of the buildings, there is still a memorial plaque to one famous Marxist, Mr. Lenin, but most of the thanks are given here to famous Russian entrepreneurs and traders: Vishnyakov, Morozov, Prokhorov, Rybeshinsky. This institute became one of the largest commercial structures in Russia. We are now prepared to a great extent, move away from government financing and to exist not on government resources but on our own means, because this commercial institute was autonomous, independent from the government, it was an educational institution which lived by its own means and the means of its directors, and the government paid not a single kopeck. The government has a charter which says it should give a competent economic education to future enterprise managers. Today, the shortage of competence is our greatest problem. The meeting devoted to the anniversary was visited today by Russian Vice President Alexander Rutskoy. Parliamentary news. On Wednesday, the Russian Parliament met in separate session of each chamber. Today, by request of the deputies, they met in joint session to discuss the fate of the Russian State Library. After President Yeltsin's famous decree on creating a Russian State Library in the former Lenin Library, several government instructions were issued which contradict it and will result in the partial liquidation of the library, including the transfer of the Erson Fund of books to the State Jewish Academy. The Supreme Soviet has repealed the order of Vice Premier Shokhin, which contradicts Yeltsin's decree, and will consider items on the return of cultural and historic objects to the state of their origin. The Supreme Soviet will consider the consistency of this proposal with international law and has suspended it until then. So the debate today was lively. The head of the Russian parliament, Ruslan Khasbolatov, met today in the Kremlin with the Russian ambassador to Russia, Bertrand Jofok, at his request. They discussed the trip by the Russian speaker to Strasbourg to visit the European Parliament, which begins tomorrow. They also discussed issues of interparliamentary relations and the legal regulation of foreign investment in Russia. The ambassador asked Ruslan Khasbolatov to tell him about the preparations for the Congress of People's Deputies and the course of economic reform. A draft constitution of Turkmenistan has been adopted today and will now be discussed publicly for 1.5 or 2 months. They also passed laws on the budget for 1992, on destatization and privatization of property, on government scientific and technology policy. These will be the state symbols of Turkmenistan, the seal and the flag. The melody of the national anthem will remain the same, but the text of the anthem will be rewritten. President of Turkmenistan, Niyazov, addressed the session. The adoption of a constitution is a necessary step towards statehood. The Eastern republics are hurrying, and it's no coincidence. Today, the Supreme Soviet of Turkmenistan discussed the results of the summit meeting in Tehran. James Baker said that this is an attempt by some to quickly play the Eastern card. Russia, strangely, is playing less of a role in this than the U.S., Iraq, and Turkey. We remind you that the mediation efforts in the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict ended without result. Today, the Iranian foreign minister said that he will soon leave for Armenia and Azerbaijan to make compromise proposals to both sides to resolve the conflict. Christian Yerevan might be interested in strengthening Iranian influence in the area, since the Armenians are still afraid of falling victim to genocide from Turkey, which happened at the beginning of the century. We have a report that Levon Ter-Petrosyan will fly to Moscow tomorrow in the afternoon. Whether Ayaz Mutalibov will arrive is still unclear, but the foreign ministers of these two countries will meet tomorrow. The situation in Nagorno-Karabakh is becoming more and more explosive. Since the beginning of this year in the region, over 100 people have been killed. Our correspondent Mikhail Zotov has found the opportunity to transmit information to us from special communications channels. The reports are more and more alarming. Today, the BM-21 guns opened fire, shelling the area with 200 shells. According to reports of the Nagorno-Karabakh Interior Ministry, 17 people were killed, 30 were wounded. At 3:40 p.m. Moscow time today, firing from Shusha began toward troops stationed in the outskirts of Stepanakert. 3 people were wounded. By order of the Azerbaijani president, in 2 regions of Azerbaijan, Agdan and Shusha regions, a state of emergency was declared today to last for 2 months. The decree was approved by the National Council of the Azerbaijani Supreme Soviet. The decree, the president said, was introduced in order to guarantee the safety of citizens living in these areas. The members of the National Council of the Azerbaijani Supreme Soviet sent an appeal, a letter to the UN General Secretary explaining the necessity to introduce a state of emergency. On February 15th, the security services of Nagorno-Karabakh and the CIS General Headquarters denied Azerbaijani media reports about the participation of the 366th Infantry Company in military activity in connection with the Armenian Self-Defense Forces. Today there was a press conference in Azerbaijan, but we remind you that the CIS General Headquarters, to whom we talked by telephone, firmly confirms that no military units have participated in these military activities. We miraculously escaped with our lives, declared these 6 young soldiers who just returned from Khankendi. The press conference was held in Nakhichevan in the officer corps of the border guard. 120 soldiers have been sent to Khankendi. Russian and Ukrainian troops refused to use force against the local population, and those who deserted managed to get to Malberi village in Azerbaijan. They waited 10 days there for a helicopter. Our soldiers were waving a white flag. The women and children were allowed to leave. And when the soldiers came out waving this flag, the other side opened fire. There are reports that one of them was killed and another taken prisoner. Armenian President Levon Ter-Petrosyan says that today, because of the collapse of the Soviet Union, the problem of Nagorno-Karabakh, which used to be the internal affair of the USSR, has automatically become an international matter. The most reliable mechanism for guaranteeing peace in the area could be the creation of an international CIS peacekeeping force. Today, the Commander-in-Chief of the Unified CIS Armed Forces, Marshal Shapashnikov, appealed to the Council of the Commonwealth Heads of State to talk about the situation in Nagorno-Karabakh. The Commander-in-Chief believes that the time has come to use all the political authority and the efforts of all the Commonwealth leaders to resolve the conflict in Karabakh by political means. He says that the Transcaucasian states should refrain from creating individual armies, and also raised the issue of creating an intergovernmental CIS peacekeeping force, which would be subordinate to the Council of the Commonwealth Heads of State. Marshal Shapashnikov reminded that the situation today contradicts the agreement signed on February 14, 1992 by the Commonwealth Heads of State on the unacceptability of the use or threat of use of force in resolving political conflicts. He said it is necessary necessary to resolve all issues by negotiation. The leadership of the Russian Supreme Soviet, more bad news now, the leadership of the Russian Supreme Soviet rebuked an attempt by the Chechen leadership today to blame the Russian leadership for the development of the situation in Chechen Ingushetia. The Russians also restated their willingness to hold negotiations. The Russian Parliamentary Press Center reports that repeated offers to hold negotiations have been rejected by Grozny, and the Chechen leadership has rejected or ignored all initiatives from Moscow. Crime in Russia is attaining cruel and brash forms as never before. The Minister of Internal Affairs of the Republic, Viktor Yerin, reports that in 1991 there were 15,000 murders, 40,000 people received severe wounds, 200,000 people were mugged. In addition to this, we are seeing crimes which previously were totally alien to our society. This happened late at night, at 12:30 a.m. An explosive was set off in this building. The elevator of this 9-floor building was destroyed. The windows of all